Hello, Mark. How are you? How are you, buddy? We're back. We're back where we started.
Yeah, I was thinking that this morning. I was like, I remember the first time we did a chat, and I was like, oh, I'm going to speak to Charlie Watt. I can't believe this. Brilliant. And that would go. What was that? 2 years ago, I don't know.
It was
months.
2 years ago.
Wow.
Funnily enough, YouTube have been all over me trying to get me to monetize, and I've just said no. I've no interest in coming back to you because when I needed you, you weren't there. And when I thought we needed you, and then by the grace of God, we chose to do it completely by ourselves, and we've been very blessed with that whole journey, beyond our wildest dreams. And of course, you and I came together with a number of other people to try, and we were seeing what was happening in America with the Patriot tour. And of course, Patriot is very much an American word. Mm-hmm. Most English people wouldn't use the word patriot, but we put together the Great Awakening tour, and we started off in Birmingham.
We did
nearly 2 weeks ago now.
Oh my God, yeah.
And next weekend we're meeting in London to plan the next one in London. But the first one, the whole idea of this video with Mark and I is discussing the first event.
How did we pull it together? I don't know. It was amazing. I mean, we've got a great team of people, but even on the day, I was like, oh, how are we going to make this work? Because we had so many speakers, we had to have a really tight schedule, and then there were 650 people there, and they were all still coming in as we started. But I had to start at 10 o'clock, otherwise we'd have been all over the shop. But yeah, it was such an amazing day.
It was, and there were so many different facets of the day that were incredible. Even before the day started, we got a phone call late at night before the show from the venue saying they'd had a number of threatening emails.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Did you not? No. The lady in charge, Hardeep.
I wouldn't have turned up if I'd known this.
They'd threatened them saying, you don't want to have these people in there because they're all racist.
Oh, God.
And that's why I did what I did at the start of when I spoke. Because racism is not something I've ever bought into.
No.
Or sexism for that matter. I do have very strong views on men being men and women being women.
Me too.
Very strong views, very old-fashioned views, but I think they're right. And I'm very willing to listen to anybody else's views if they choose to differ. But I started off my part of speaking by introducing Mills, and then Tiana, who's Bangladeshi and shorter than me, and a woman.
And if Mills is watching this, I've got to apologise to him because I tried to squeeze him in for 10. I said to him the night before, let's get you on for 10 minutes, but the day just didn't have the time for it. So I'm so glad you got him on stage.
Well, Mills is just a very special person. The first time I met him was the night before the show. He just came up and just put his arms around me and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I started following you when I was in prison. And for every single person, and I'm one of those that's been in prison, when you're inside and you can connect with something on the outside, it gives you hope.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to give somebody hope without knowing who they were, and there's a lot of people that weren't in prison that I gave hope to as well. But when you're incarcerated, it has a completely different meaning to get connected. So I brought Mills up on there and Tiana and said, look, basically, once you get through the external, because Mills is a lot taller than me, Tiana's shorter than me, and she's a woman, our hearts are exactly the same color. And every single person in the room has an equal value. And people have been suppressed for so long, they didn't realize their own value. So I thought it was important that little thing that happened was important that we got that message out.
Yeah, 100%.
But you hosted it brilliantly.
Thank you.
Your poetry came in before every speaker, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just the atmosphere. When you fight and fight and fight and fight, you're up against resistance, everything. And then you have a get together like that just the atmosphere is so rewarding.
Well, the last 2 years have all been about resilience, right? Especially you. The arrows thrown at you, I've watched from afar, going, how's he carrying on?
Yeah.
and we've all had it. I mean, I got resistance about doing that day from other people within the movement. What are you doing? And I was like, well, there's all these people there that I've never met. That was my main motivation. I just wanted to meet you guys and look everybody in the eye. And all I got was enormous amounts of love. And that's why the day worked so well, because the energy of the people in the room, the audience was magnificent, right? But so was everybody that got on stage. And, and we'd never met before as a group.
Yeah.
But we managed to put on I think an amazing show. And you can tell how amazing it was by all the people afterwards. I mean, I gave out about 400 hugs.
Yeah.
Because I promised everybody a hug, and there were people queuing up for hugs. And but the energy of the day. I mean, I was talking to David Mahoney about it the other day, who's extremely funny and an extremely talented man. And I didn't even think I'd like David.
Yeah.
As soon as we met, I was like, this guy's brilliant.
Yeah.
He said, we didn't even yawn. The energy was so strong the whole night. I don't think I got to bed till about 1 o'clock. No, it was just an extraordinary day. Extraordinary.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. When I got back to the house afterwards, I literally went straight to bed and I was just completely done. I was finished.
Yeah.
The energy that was there was incredible. And you're absolutely right. It came together. We can't talk about this without mentioning Twitch and the two guys who did the videography, etc., who, by the way, have just been shortlisted for an award in Hollywood for their production skills, which is worth a mention, isn't it?
I produced this film last year. It didn't cost much, and Kieran made it, and he made a lot of my poetry videos. He's a really talented guy from around here in the west of Ireland. Yeah, and it's just been nominated for an award in Hollywood. We were talking about going. It's in about 3 or 4 weeks, but just amazing. Amazing, because he won an award in Dublin last year. So Kieran and his brother Joe have been, thank you for picking them to do the job. And it was really hair raising as well, because when you were on, they were going, there's something wrong with the battery. We keep, and it was like, oh, right at the last minute, we just managed to get the whole thing in the can, because the video of this event is over 6 hours long, which you've just had delivered. It took 24 hours to render it this week. So it is a big video. But yeah, they did amazing. But Twitch was amazing on the sound. What was really funny about Twitch is that he had no idea what we were going to be talking about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and apparently after the event, he said, well, they're all really lovely people, bonkers, but lovely.
Yeah.
Because he'd never heard any of this information ever.
Isn't it amazing when people just they're unaware of what's going on. Also, my wife, as I mentioned to you before we started recording here, my wife said, I need to come with you next time because your shirt was hanging out.
Yeah, well, I was watching you going, oh, should I go and tuck his shirt in? He's talking, I can't do that.
You can do that at any time. And I was on with Chaz Carter yesterday, which I apologize to him profusely.
Oh, yeah.
But
Chaz.
We'll get all of this right next time. Don't worry. We didn't get it in. I've got some, and that's why next week we're in the UK talking face to face about that. What we did, this was the first one, and I'll tell you, it was absolutely magnificent. And we're nitpicking now so that we can make it better and better and better. And the next one in London is going to be very different, because the world is going to know that something massive has already happened, because it's happening as we speak this week behind the scenes with the new banking system. Things are changing this week, big style. And the public will become aware in June about what's happening. So,
but it's a very exciting summer, I think.
It is.
And this is coming from lots of angles. I'm getting information from all sorts of angles, including here in Ireland, and from people in other countries, that this big stuff is happening. And you can tell it is by how low key everything has been the last few weeks. Yep.
And there's so many distractions, whether it's Putin, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's whatever it is. It's all distraction. Then suddenly myself, Simon Parks and Chaz Carter's banks yesterday stopped working. And we've been told that they won't work for 72 hours. And yet there's nothing in mainstream media about it, which I now know is the new quantum financial system being flipped over.
Well, I'm getting truth bumps as you're saying it.
Exactly.
So I trust these more than anything else.
Exactly. So super exciting times. But we're now setting up the venue for September in London. We're looking at 2,500 people, which will be brilliant because we'll be able to bring everybody up to speed with what's happening. We'll reduce the number of speakers to give people like Simon Parkes a bit more time.
Yeah.
I mentioned that to Simon yesterday because he's got a lot to share.
Yeah.
But we've got some great speakers lined up for London, and we'll have some music as well, which always goes down well.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, we'll be looking at Ireland, Dublin.
Well, that'd be great because
in your own backyard.
Yeah, that'd be great because I could just drive there and drive back.
Exactly. But
it's the time of gigs. You know, after 2 years of not being able to go anywhere, I just booked tickets to see Madness and John Lydon today, and I'm over the moon. And then things like this. I foresaw this 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I foresaw. It's so strange, with the poetry that just kind of narrates this whole thing. I foresaw this tour, and now it's actually happened, or the first one's happened. Sure. And it was like a dress rehearsal that just went really well.
Yeah, no, exactly. It went absolutely brilliantly.
I want to mention Tara. She was the hub of everything, and Lee. They did a brilliant job.
Yeah, they did. And amazing. The amount of work that went in behind the scenes. Tara was the engine of everything behind the scenes, getting everything done. I forgot to show you this because this actually did show up. And it got put in
we made those and then we forgot them.
Yeah, exactly. They were put in my car and never came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guest speakers and the scheduling and everything else. It doesn't matter. We'll do all of that. We'll do all of that for the next one as well. And now
they could become collector's items.
They are. It's the first tour.
Well, did you like I don't know if you saw my gag at the beginning. I said if we're all right, and at least 50% of us are right. I don't know which 50%, but at least 50%. If we're all right, this could be a historical day.
Yeah.
If we're wrong, you ain't seen me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Look, do you know the one thing I've learned on this journey, Mark, is this is not a physical journey. This is a spiritual journey. And 100%. That's why I have confidence in everything we do, because it comes from within. It's not all planned out from a techie, guys. This is every single one of us has a feeling inside, and we're vibrating at the same frequency. It's got nothing to do with planning and technicalities and all that stuff. It's a frequency that we connected on. And that's why I feel very confident on this whole journey.
Well, I felt enormous. Well, yeah, absolutely on this whole journey. But I felt that day, I just felt enormously protected.
Yeah.
Completely safe, completely in tune. Everybody was in tune.
Yeah.
It was like the whole day was like an orchestra where everything's playing in tune and in the right place. And you can't legislate for that. You can't rehearse for that. It just either happens or it doesn't. And that, and I've done thousands of gigs over 30 years as a stand-up, I had a theatre company for years. And when it goes well, it's quite rare when it all goes really, really well. But this was one of those days where everything just went. Not everything. There were a few little hiccups, but we overrode those.
And also enjoy the poetry at the beginning of each one, because these are all Mark's poems, which he's created over the last few years, put together. And they've been a huge part of our journey. And that they were a huge part of the Great Awakening tour. And it helped us transition between speakers. And it was beautiful. It worked perfectly.
Yeah, well, I got that vision because they're chronological in a way, and they all tell a different part of the journey, a different part of the story. So they start with indignation and like, fuck the system, fuck these guys, blah blah blah. And there is a bit of swearing. Yeah. Somebody said I was salty.
Yes, yeah.
I told the audience at the beginning there'd be a bit of swearing, because how can you go through the last 2 years without a little bit of anger?
Yeah,
and a lot of comedy. But then by the end of it, I was in tears because the last poem I put out is called ICU, which is really for all the light workers that have helped on the spiritual journey. And I got a standing ovation, and I started crying on stage. I was like, shut up, we've got to carry on with the show. Yeah, it was such a privilege to do, Charlie, and I appreciate you trusting me to do it, because you had no idea if I'd be any good or not.
Well, I did. And again, it goes back to not reading CVs. It's
Yeah.
the same with your two boys from Ireland, the same with Twitch. You go with what's in your heart. And if you follow your heart, you'll make a lot less mistakes than if you follow CVs.
Yeah, well, I told my son that when he left school last year. I said, you know, I've employed over 300 people over the years. I've never read a CV once.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the best advice I was ever given as an employer is imagine yourself on a long haul flight with this person. If you think they're going to annoy you, don't employ them.
Yeah,
that's the way you work with people.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. You know, it all worked.
It did. It worked incredibly well. And, you know, we've learned so much from it.
Yeah.
And that, you know, these tiny little mistakes about getting the gravy wrong and one thing and another, they're little mistakes that are very easy to put right. And if you make no mistakes, then you're not human.
Exactly.
We make mistakes, but the 99% of the entire day was off the scale. The atmosphere was brilliant. The music was brilliant. The interaction was amazing. And I was just shocked that we had people that had flown in from America, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Finland, from France, from Spain, from Germany. They'd flown, and then we had 10 people who'd driven down from Scotland. I mean, the people had come a long way to be there. And they were grateful to be there, and the atmosphere was like I've never experienced before.
Same here. And I think what's really interesting is that we've spent 2 years sat at a laptop, talking into nowhere, and then you actually meet the people. Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful thing for us and them, and so important that there was very little ego going on. You know, anybody watching this, we don't think of ourselves as celebrities or anything like that. No. It's a completely different thing. It's just, you know, what I said on the day was that everybody in the audience were heroes, right? Because they stood up. And everybody on the stage are also heroes, because the adversity, the shills, the hatred, the YouTube bans, the everything, you know, PayPal accounts being closed down, money being taken, all of this stuff that we've all had to put up with over the last 2 years. You know, it's hard to explain to people that don't understand this. But when I first saw you, there was a joke I was going to do, but I didn't get the chance to do it. And that was I first met Charlie Ward naked in the shower. Because I had you on the phone as I was getting into the shower, and it was one of your walking videos. And the first thing I thought was, this guy's being positive about all of this. This is great. Yeah. Because in the middle of all the fear, that's why you grew so rapidly, because you gave so many people this positive spin all the time, which has been an incredible feat to keep that up. You know, because you've never once let anybody get you down. No, it's extraordinary. And yet I think you gave a lot of people a lot of courage, including me and a lot of other people that decided, okay, because the key thing for me was that if the bad guys were in control, we would already be dead. Yes. So why not start talking? You know, I've been studying this conspiracy for 20, nearly 30 years. Yep. So there's a lot of knowledge to come out and share, and we've all done it. And what I found funny is that, you know, sometimes one of the guys that slags you off says, "Oh, he calls them the team," and I think that's hilarious, because I was there and I saw how chaotic and organic it all was. And yes, people started working together as a team. Like, that's a bad thing. Yep. Yep. I mean, exactly. We do one, we go all. Does that sound like a team? Exactly right. And I tell you what, it's a brilliant team on every single aspect. We've built a team. On the journey, we've had to lose a couple of people on the way, but we've picked up people on the way. And that's just, it's all been organic. Yeah, it has. And, you know, you've, as a result of this directly, you have set up a business to help other people setting up a business. Yeah.
And that's been very successful in empowering people and saying, you've got all the tools inside here. You just don't know what tools you've got.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when I set that up, I really didn't understand why I was being asked to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was being asked to do it.
Sure.
And the side effect, although it looks like it's all about money, the side effect is, look, all of you watching this have the power.
Yeah.
You just had it stripped. You know,
I'm gonna make a very, very important point there, Mark, because we sometimes shy away from money.
Yeah.
God has no problem with money.
No.
It's what we do with it. And if we're helping other people with it, which I've set my life out and you've set your life out to do, God has blessed us even more.
Yeah.
But it's when suddenly it becomes money takes over your life and becomes more important than truth. And that's what's happened in the pharmaceutical world. It's what's happened in the mainstream media world. It's happened in government. I said to somebody this morning, I said, if you just take two politicians, Obama and Zelensky, and take their net worth before they took office and their net worth when they left office, and wonder how that they became billionaires on their salary. It doesn't add up.
Especially Zelensky. I mean, he was a second-rate stand-up comic like me.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But they knew that they could control him, and that's all they look for.
Yeah.
And I got a threat yesterday, Mark, from the Daily Mail.
Did you?
Yeah, basically saying, if you don't tell us, give us a story, we're going to write our own. I said, go ahead, write your own.
Oh, they love doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write your own.
I was a journalist at the Daily Telegraph 32 years ago, and I saw, I picked all that up from the journalists that they get dictated from above.
Yeah.
Which is why I left, journalism.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want any part of this nonsense. So I knew it was all fake news 32 years ago.
Yep, exactly.
And they're going to do a hit piece on you. That's means you're on the target.
Exactly. It means you're right over the target and you're upsetting them. So I'll enjoy reading about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are the same guys that didn't run stories on Jimmy Savile when they could.
Exactly right.
So,
exactly right.
Fuck them.
Yes, exactly.
But their days are numbered, right?
Of course they are. Of course they are. People are sick and tired of being fed a load of rubbish. And the good thing with a load of rubbish is it'll all come out in the end. Sometimes it's not as quick as we want it. The one thing that's wonderful with truth is it stands up forever. That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, I said to you yesterday, so if all these big things happen in the summer, will there be a need for a tour like this? And then you said, well, actually, because people are going to want to know what's been happening, and we've all been at it for a few years, so we're the best people to hear it from, I suppose.
People will want to know what the hell's gone on, and they're going to want to know what they can do for the future, especially those that start to realize their mortgages have disappeared and their loans have disappeared, and they're not having to pay tax anymore. There's a lot, the majority of people in the world want to do more for society. There's a lot of people who want to do it, but have never had the means to do it.
Yeah.
And it will just be the hub of the wheel that allows them to do that and gives them the infrastructure to do that. And there'll be a lot of people that have been caring for people all their lives that need a bit of help and haven't been able to afford it.
Yeah.
So there'll be a huge shift in the way that we are. And it's amazing, the minute you haven't got to help somebody, because you don't have to do it, it becomes far more attractive to help somebody when you don't have to do it. It's a psychological thing.
Absolutely. So how do you think it's going to pan out? Is there anything you can tell us or not?
With the new financial system is moving into place right now as we speak, through the end of May and beginning of June, and we'll see the transition. We'll see the collapse now of the Biden regime, and the exposure of the starting with Michael Sussman, and the Clinton Foundation and the Clintons and the Obamas and the corruption. It's at the moment what they're doing is they're unpicking it bit by bit slowly. They're inflicting pain. So people are going to start to, when they start to see the fall of the cabal, once they see it, people will start asking questions rather than, at the moment, you can't tell them anything. They're a closed book. So they've got to see it themselves. And this is why it's had to follow this process. And the mainstream media are already falling apart. Nobody's watching, nobody's listening. They're desperate. I've got no interest in talking to any of them because we don't need to. We have the audience and we have the people to talk to. I don't need to go backwards. We need to move forwards. And the mainstream media will collapse completely because of the fact they've already nailed their colours to the flagpole.
Well, it is just one giant sting operation from my perspective. And they just keep hoisting themselves by their own petard consistently. Yep. And I can't wait to see the BBC close down.
Oh, yes. I mean, the corruption levels there are off the scale.
Yeah. And RTE here and CNN and all of them. I've just been watching the Pentaverate, Mike Myers. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's fascinating. I mean, I've reviewed a few movies on my channel, like the Batman, which is a definite Q movie, 100%. Yep. And the last James Bond film was definitely hijacked by the good guys and reshot and they changed it, I'm sure. But the Pentaverate is on Netflix, which I think has definitely been, or it's in transition. I don't know exactly what's going on, but it's all about a secret society, a nice secret society that's been running the world for the last 700 years. And they're using words like adrenochrome in this comedy show, right? 3 or 4 times I heard it.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's incredible because that's mainstream media.
Yeah.
And the words are being seeded in people's minds.
Yeah.
And they don't explain what it is.
No.
The problem is most of the people that are asleep wouldn't be asked going to research a word like that. I mean, I seed my poems with words all the way through and people watch them.
Yeah.
And I say, well, you know what adrenochrome is? So they're like, no. Well, I just put it in the poem. Why didn't you go? Because I'm the type of person, if I hear a word, this is what I teach my kids. If I hear a word or read a word that I don't know what it is, I'll go and look it up.
Yeah.
But people don't do, most people just don't do it. It just washes over them.
It does.
So this ability to get critical thinking going again, which is what I think Q is all about, is just getting people to think for themselves. Mm-hmm. That's the real battle I think that they've had, because it is a spiritual war, but it's the level of consciousness and ability to have sovereignty or think for yourself, right? Which is the thing that's really been taken away from the human race, that we're all desperately trying to get them to start thinking more for yourself and think independently and do research, because that's been your consistent message. It's been my consistent message. Yeah, it's like my mum, my mum's known, I've been saying this stuff to my mum for 10 years, that she still went and got the jab. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing, mum?
Yeah. There's a very interesting point that was made by a doctor to me last year, that those people that are wearing a mask, because it reduces oxygen to the brain, it takes away the opportunity of critical thinking.
Yeah.
You can't think critically if you haven't got oxygen in the brain.
My daughter just said in the car, there were 3 kids in her class that are still wearing masks.
Yep.
Even when they're doing PE.
Yep. Yep.
It's just mind-blowing.
Well, Mark, massive thank you for hosting the Great Awakening Tour. It was done absolutely brilliantly. Loved your poetry. Loved everything about it. It was brilliant. And thank you for you and your guys.
Great to chat to you, Charlie.
You too, buddy. Love to the family.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.